Hello everybody, this is Dan Waters from Enstarla. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We're here for a walkthrough of our robotic process automation use case 8, site inspection. So really the concept around this is where you have workers such as electrical workers, plumbers, construction workers that for whatever reason need to do a site inspection. It might be a whole site inspection, it might be something specific, for example, lockout, tagout, it might be something specific related to a natural disaster, and it provides a mechanism to essentially, in a standardized way, take the information that's been recorded and load it into a centralized platform. I was very surprised when I was informed of how prevalent the need to solve this use case is. There are tools out there, sometimes ranging in the millions of dollars as a secondary module to something that's already in place. So just the ability, it's almost like a putty, if you will, to be able to take some kind of basic flat file, whether it be electronic or whether it be something that's filled out with pen and paper, and be able to import that into a centralized database, especially for compliance purposes. Because again, if we're talking site inspections, there's usually a human safety element there. So without further ado, let's quickly walk through our slide. The key benefits, among many: data is moved into a single centralized digital platform. Data is validated automatically and rejected if necessary. That's important. We want to be able to isolate and highlight where there are data entry issues related to this stuff. And manual data entry of populated forms is 100% eliminated. Everyone knows how frustrating it is to take something that's printed out or electronic and just do that kind of manual lift and shift. It's prone with errors. Humans make 3 to 5 mistakes, reasonably serious mistakes per hour. So the experts at Kindler, our partners, have advised me. So something to be wary of that there. You add that up over a full day and then over a full week, and you've got some data challenges, period. Design notes can be adjusted to collect additional details of digital benefit since the burden of manual entry is now lifted. So the form may have taken a shape where you've just wanted to kind of collect the minimum because you were actually catering for that burden of manual data entry. Well, now that we've solved that, you can actually go and collect additional things that can provide a lot of value to you. Scales to any level within available computing resources confines. So whatever your machines can take, single machine, clustering scenarios, server farms, you name it, you can unleash it. Really handy. Can be swiftly adjusted to other form types. So you could have permutations of this use case. You could have something specific to lockout tagout. You could have something specific to an area of disaster recovery. You could have something to specific to your disaster recovery testing, right? Lots of ways to, again, take the guesswork out of this. Standardize, and then centralize. Process architecture. Loop batch, get current target file. Then we validate the data, import data to central digital platform, move file to processed queue. Very simple. Add-ons, we love our add-ons here. So what are the additional things you could do? Trend analysis, okay? So for example, an individual we can trace to understand, well, they're finding more issues than anyone else. Maybe it's because they have a better level of education and training specific to the task they're doing, or maybe it's swinging the other way. Compliance, okay? So if you've got regulatory items that you need to adhere to, compliance is very important. Workflows, this might be a part of a larger workflow related to, for example, a site build or some kind of construction, right? Some inventory management and ordering, all those things. Skipping over to inventory orders, we could look at automated inventory order fulfillment. Education and training. A person is going to perform their site inspection, and based on the classification of site inspection, we can understand that, okay, for example, 3 of these quick training videos need to be watched to be able to ensure that the site inspection is performed correctly. So we're identifying the education training need, we're taking the guesswork out. The individual at hand spends 9 to 10 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, looking at what the content is, and then off they go, and you've got a quality issue that's been taken care of. And of course, notifications, which really ties into, I would guess, the workflow piece, probably more than anything. So with that taken care of, let's have a look here. So just explaining a few of the moving pieces we've got. So here on the screen, we've got a raw directory where we've got inspection forms that have been filled out by Mr. Dillon, Einstein, Kroger, Mr. Messi, and Mr. Gandhi. And once these are processed, if processed successfully, they'll drop over to this process directory here. Very simple. And over here, we've just got a little SQL window here. These are just stored procedures looking at a couple of underlying tables that we're going to run our data against. And as you can see, we've just, by passing this parameter here, we're actually just pulling back everything that's available to us. So what we will do now is we're going to run this, let it do its thing. So really the construction here of these safety inspection forms, we've got some general items specific to the inspection form. We've got an inspection team, and then we've got line items with a tag of compliance achieved, yes or no, specific to these line items. So again, you'd probably see comments and so on here, but as you can already see, the robot is kind of moving through this quite quickly. Now, something I didn't mention, which is important to mention, where do you lift this to if you don't have this type of solution? So do you really want to be giving this to someone to be able to write manual queries into SQL? Do you want to build some kind of integration around that? You're already making taking the simple value that we're doing here and making it complicated, right? RPA is about, really making sure that we are in some way simulating human interactivity, but we're also combining the fact that we don't need to go and write SQL statements here. It's just all taken care of for us. So we're getting the best of both worlds. We're getting the best of the world in terms of abstracting away from any technical knowledge, skills, and experience, making life easy, but we're also taking care of the very annoying, very burdensome, very frustrating manual data entry. So we've got a few more forms to kind of loop through here. Just in terms of performance, it's probably worthwhile mentioning here that you can switch this so it runs in the background, so you're not actually pushing things to the screen. That's obviously going to save considerable performance, right? Also the way that the application layer is being interacted with for those people who are technical, that is greatly reduced, right? Because it doesn't need to do the level of writes that it needs to push to screen. The other thing is we've slowed some of this down so that it's easier to follow in terms of the looping of the file and the grabbing of the individual line items. It can move substantially faster than what we're seeing here. And again, we could make a few tweaks to this form right here, and you could be processing one every 5 seconds, and that's being gentle with it, right? So you could put enormous throughput here, and you could say, okay, well, we're doing this here with this Excel file. Well, we don't use an Excel file, we use something else. So as far as the input, we use Excel because we like to say wherever there's an Excel file, there's a use case for RPA, right? Or a benefit gain in terms of RPA. What is important to realize that this could be a form in, for example, let's twist the use case in Salesforce or SAP, and you can do the same type of thing with grabbing this information, overcoming a shortfall in integration scope of API availability, so on and so forth. And again, because this is kind of human synthetic behavior, the type of technical integration you might need is heavily reduced, right? And again, scale up, scale down. You can very easily scale, which is what we want, as fast as needed. Or you can just wind it down or turn it off. No harm, no foul. And that's interesting, right? Because as far as change management, a lot of the technical pieces that we're trying to do these days fall under change management. In fact, everything should really. And we're finished there, I might just add. But as far as change management, this gets you around some of the change management issues. So if you've got a lead time for change management, and there's even a backlog, or you've got a situation where there's a block for changes to be executed over December, just being year end and so on and so forth, this gets you around that, right? So you can go very gentle, if you will. You don't need to go and perform architectural surgery or any kind of real development work. It's simply kind of performing what humans already do, right? So it can get you around that change management. Not around it, but change management just doesn't intersect with what we're trying to do here is probably a better way to say it. So let's just run this real quick. Execute. So we can see that we've got a contractor, Mr. Dillon, who's identified these 3 line items, which we won't go into. We've got our 5 forms that have been successfully entered: Mr. Gandy, Mr. Messi, Mr. Kroger, Mr. Einstein, Mr. Dillon. Very interesting. We've got our team members there. And of course, these failing line items, we can then start to say, okay, so on this particular day, for this type of site inspection with this individual, we've been able to identify some actual issues, right? So this stuff is important. And of course, if there's a compliance issue, then the usual, let's say business as usual for that site can't proceed, right? It might be limited, maybe not, right? So we want to get articulate and analytical about those things. So anyway, again, hope you really enjoyed what we had to show you. A little bit of a longer one today, but I think it's got a great application, great concept that can be applied in many, many different situations. And please leave feedback in the comments. If you have any comments or ideas, we'd love to hear from you. And we will see you next time. Thank you very much.